My name is Bowen. I'm enrolled Upper Skagit native. My native name is Clockadub. I'm from the Washington, Martin, Moses, Jones family. My tribes include Upper Skagit, Swinomish, Nooksack, and Yakima, Wenatchee, Snohomish, Lower Vancouver Island, and Warm Springs, Oregon. And when we're in a traditional environment, we have to introduce ourselves referring to the last 400 or 500 years to orientate the audience to who we are and how we came about. You know, I grew up here in the Skagit Valley. When I was a kid, this is where I rode my bike from Mount Vernon to here, and I would go camping and fishing here. And my uncle and I fished here, commercial fishing, years ago. And this is where he taught me how to do my commercial fishing. But over the years, as we'd come up the river, we'd always come up here for picnics. And the family would always go to the river for picnics. But my aunt always pointed out what spirit lives everywhere along the river. And one spirit lives right out here. It's a very, very, very deep hole out there. Be careful going across that. Be very careful when you're going across that stretch. Don't disturb that spirit helper. Don't ever fall in there. But it's ironic, this is where my son learned how to swim. You know, right through here. So how has it changed? That's a good question about how things have changed. When I grew up here in the 60s, the salmon population had been struck very hard. The DDT had affected all the raptors, and logging was in full effect. And you'll see behind me all these rocks in the river. They used to be on the mountains. And when even as a little child, I came up here, I realized what looked natural and what didn't look natural. And I heard stories about the salmon, the giant salmon, 50 pounds, 100 pounds, 125 pound king salmon. And thought about there used to be waterfalls in the Skagit. And the tribe would go up there and they would do dip netting. And my uncle and my father went up there one day, up by Rockport, and they were going to go dip netting. That's back when it was not allowed. We weren't allowed any kind of rights to the river when we were younger. And I remember my uncle had a big dip net, and he dove it down. There's a certain way you push the net in there, and you feel a fish, you pull it back up. Well, he got a big salmon. It was huge. And he's pulling it back up, and it's so heavy. My uncle was not that big. He started going over. And my father grabbed his belt. My father wasn't that big, and he started going over. But they wouldn't let go of the net. No matter what, they weren't going to let go of the net, you know. And eventually, I think my mother jumped in there and started pulling all of them back, and they eventually got that salmon. You know, we just needed one salmon. But salmon in our life was a common food and a common source of nutrition. Every event was barbecue salmon. But then again, I turn on the TV at nighttime. As a young boy, I liked watching the news. And I remember over and over again turning the news on and watching my sister and my grandfather and my grandmother be arrested by the state police and carted off to jail for fishing. I don't know how many people can say they watched their grandparents and their sister get arrested and thrown in jail over something like that, the fishing rights. Trying to reestablish, and fight for the things that they had known as young people. My grandparents had known as young people. And so you say change. What's change? When do you start change? Change started here at Contact. At Contact, at the height of the tribes in the Skagit Valley, our Skagit people were 8,000 to 9,000 people. That was just the Skagit tribe. The Samish tribe had just as many. The Swinomish tribe had just as many. Yet after tens of thousands of years, we left no impact and no mark. There was more people on my tribe at the height of our tribe than there was in Mount Vernon, Burlington, and Cedar Woolley when I was born. But by the time I was born, the mountains were cleared off. Old growth was fast disappearing, and the salmon were almost disappearing. And the stories I heard about of the runs of sockeye and humpies, where you could walk across the river, were long, long in history. And so we have to gather together today. The young people are being given this charge of trying to find something, a new standard, a new bar, a new level to fight for. We're never going to have it back the way it was 150 years ago. But we don't have to lose everything. So somewhere between 150 years ago and losing everything is where we are right now. So we fight for every stream. We fight for every tree. We fight for the quality of water all the way up and down. We know the temperature of the river at every spot along the way.
And so restoration of the rivers, restoration of the climate are both possible. Focusing on both carbon in the air and carbon in the river and the diversity of nature. Can you talk a little bit about restoration in terms of the forests, the river, and preserving a climate, a planet, and a civilization that can remain stable?
Restoration is an interesting, it's a Western concept. And so let's apply Western, we're going to restore the Skagit Valley to its natural state. So when my mother was young, she saw the forest in a natural state, a very diversified forest ecosystem, deciduous trees, all sorts of conifers, okay? That took thousands and thousands and thousands of years for that to evolve. So we can assume that we can have the knowledge to reintroduce that system and arbitrarily plant what we think would be the proper mixture of trees. But we're always going to come up short. So I think the grand plan should be what they're going to look like in 1,000 years. What can we do today so 1,000 years from now it's back to where it can be recognized by the earth? And the first thing people do is when you go somewhere, if you see something there that doesn't belong there, remove it. You know, I'm going to pick up some trash before we leave here. I saw someone left a bag there. That changes the world. When I was a young boy, my grandfather gave me instructions. Go out and learn their ways, learn their laws, learn their rules, learn their language, come back and help our people. You were born to change the world. I was 4 years old. That was the mantle that was put on my shoulders. And no one questioned it. So how do you change the world? You have to listen to the stories of what we're trying to change back to. What was of value? You know, if we want our salmon, if we want our fresh water, if we want our clean air, you know, we have to encourage and discourage what's gotten us here. And we're going to all be living here. The Skagit Valley is going to have 40, 50,000 more people in the next 20 years. So how are we going to accommodate those people? We're going to accommodate them. Let's make it under rules that secure what sustains this valley, the ecosystem.
So can you talk a little bit, just briefly, about these times for learning? How can the Upper Skagit tribe and the tribes generally in this region and globally help this mindfulness and humility and some willingness to learn?
What does the Upper Skagit tribe have to teach the world?
Yeah. What do tribes generally have to teach the world?
The Upper Skagit tribe, like many other tribes around the country and in North and South America, tell a very common story, you know, and it's for the betterment of all mankind. So if you listen to our stories, they talk about how we fit into the whole system and what our value is. We're not the top of the pyramid. We're part of the pyramid. You know, there's a wonderful story I'd like you guys to read is about the frog lady, the frog girl. And it talks about the balance of nature, Mother Nature, the consequences. what happens when you put things right again, and the benefit and consequences of doing things wrong. Years ago, an old medicine woman from Swinomish asked me, went to visit her one day, and I used to go over just to visit with her, just to listen to her. And the old people talked in code. They didn't tell you straight out questions. So I walked into the house, and I said, "And how are you?" She goes, "Oh, I'm good, I'm good. What do you think about the weather?" And she said it with a tone that I knew. And I said, "I think that Mother Nature, when it can no longer tolerate us, will wipe us away through flood or snow or landslides or weather, but will wipe us off the face of the earth when she can no longer tolerate us. Unless we turn around and start working with her and for her, she will destroy us." And she looked back and, good answer. I could have answered, "Oh, it's been a nice week." And she would have said, "Oh, yes." That wasn't the question, though. So as I sit here in the valley here and look at my river, the one thing our people have taught us from generations of stories is that when the Western people came here, they thought they were bringing information about the rest of the world, all the cultures, all the languages. Yet we knew from this point, right where we were here, having never left the valley, there were people all around the world. We knew about cultures all around the world, everything all around the world, and we expected people to come visit. And how this river is connected to the rest of the world. Our river here, for example, is connected to the fisheries in Alaska. There's many tribes along the coast of Alaska that depend on the Skagit River run. They have the orca whales, the herring, everything's connected. If this collapses and continues at this rate, there'll be no Northern Pacific fisheries. There'll be no Northern Pacific ecosystem. And that doesn't bode well for the rest of the world. We're all part of a chain. So if I can secure my river, do whatever I can to secure my river, I in turn can help secure the earth. That's one thing we're taught. We're totally connected to the whole earth. Our people were taught North America was referred to as Turtle Island. Why would you refer to North America as Turtle Island? And it wasn't until 1969 when they looked back at the earth and they saw an image of North America for the first time ever. It's in the shape of a turtle. How did we know that 40,000 years ago? This is a microcosm of the world. We save this, we save the world. Everything we do here positively can be emulated in every culture, in every environment, from the Sahara to the Great Serengeti Plains, to the Dakotas, to the steppes in Asia. It can be repeated over and over again once one good plan is figured out. And it's our job as natives to tell the world how it's done. It's done through values. It's done through the heart.
Beautiful. I'd like
Yeah.
to end that there because that's just
Okay.
right. Thank you. One more thing.
So do I have hope that the information I'm sharing can help change the world? About 2 years ago, I was talking to some of the elders of the Swinomish tribe because my cousin and I wanted to start doing a podcast. And it was sharing very intimate family details and family values and the tribal stories. And 10 years ago, I'd asked my mother if I could do something like that. And she said, "No, you do not share our private family information with anybody. I absolutely forbid you to do it." It was not allowed. So I called the elder and I asked her, "Can we do this?" She said, "Yes, you have my blessings. Share what we have. The world needs our help. Please help them."